The night was quiet, too quiet for a small town at the edge of the city. The streets were almost empty, and only the soft hum of streetlights filled the air. A young man named Daniel walked home after finishing his late shift. He carried a small bag of groceries in one hand and rubbed his tired eyes with the other. Daniel was used to silence. His life was simple and lonely. Work, home, sleep, repeat. But tonight something was different. Something waited for him. As he turned the corner onto his street, he froze. There, standing in front of his house, was a woman. At least she looked like a woman. Tall, graceful, wearing a strange uniform that shimmered like liquid silver under the streetlight. Her long dark hair fell across her shoulders, but her eyes were not normal. They glowed faintly, like small moons. Daniel's first thought was that she was some kind of cosplayer, maybe from a science fiction movie. But then she moved, and the way she moved made his stomach twist. Too smooth, too perfect. No human could move like that. Daniel took a cautious step forward. Can I help you?" he asked, his voice nervous. The woman tilted her head, studying him as though he were a rare animal. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm, soft, but with a strange echo, like more than one person spoke at the same time. "You are human. Good. I have been searching for you." Daniel blinked. "Searching? For me? Why?" The woman stepped closer. She was not threatening, but the air around her felt heavy, charged as if the very street was holding its breath. "My name cannot be spoken in your tongue," she said. "But you may call me Seer, as I am a maid." "From another world?" Daniel laughed nervously. "Right, another world. Sure. Okay, who sent you? This is a prank, right?" But Ceres did not laugh. She looked at him with those glowing silver eyes, serious and cold, yet not unkind. "I am not here to harm you," she said. "I am here because you have something that my people need. Something only humans can give." Daniel's heart beat faster. His mind told him to run, to hide, to call someone, but his feet stayed in place. Something about her presence rooted him there. "What do you mean? What could I possibly have that aliens need?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. Ceres paused as though choosing her words carefully. "I cannot tell you yet, not here. But I will tell you this. If you refuse me, my master will die. And if my master dies, your world may follow." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The streetlight above them flickered, and for a moment her silver uniform seemed to glow brighter, almost alive. He swallowed hard. "Look, I don't know what kind of game this is, but I'm just a normal guy. I work at a store. I pay rent. I don't have anything special. I can't help you." Ceres shook her head slowly. "That is where you are wrong, human. It is not what you have. It is what you are." Daniel's throat went dry. She sounded serious, deadly serious. "Why me? Out of all the people on earth, why stand in front of my house?" Her silver eyes softened just for a moment. "Because I searched for kindness. I searched for someone who does not yet know his own value. And I found you." The words hit him like a stone. Daniel had always thought of himself as average, invisible. But this alien maid was telling him the opposite. He shook his head quickly. "This is insane. I need to go inside." But when he looked at his door, he saw something strange. The doorknob was glowing faintly, the same silver light that came from her eyes. He stepped back in shock. "What did you do to my house?" he demanded. Ceres looked calm, almost sad. "It is a seal of protection. If I am wrong about you, if you refuse me, the seal will break, and what is hunting me will find us both." Daniel stared at her, fear crawling up his spine. "Hunting you? Who's hunting you?" She raised her head, scanning the dark sky above. For a moment, Daniel thought he saw a shadow pass between the stars. "You will know soon enough," she whispered. Then she turned back to him. Her voice was softer now, almost pleading. "But first, I must ask you, will you listen to my request? It may sound strange. It may sound foolish. But it may decide the fate of more than one world." Daniel looked into her glowing eyes. Part of him wanted to slam the door, hide under his bed, and forget this night ever happened. But another part, a deep, restless part of him, was curious. What could an alien maid possibly want from an ordinary human like him? And in that moment, he realized one thing. His life would never be the same again. Daniel stood frozen on the porch, the grocery bag slipping from his hand. An apple rolled out, bouncing once on the concrete before stopping at Ceres's feet. She bent down and picked it up carefully as if it was a precious jewel, not a simple fruit. Her silver eyes studied it with fascination, and then she handed it back to him with both hands, almost like a gift. "This," she whispered, "is part of what I came for." Daniel frowned, confused. "An apple? You crossed the galaxy. For an apple?" Cirrus tilted her head. Her long hair shimmered in the glow of the streetlight. "Not the apple itself. Not the shape, not the color, not even the taste. What matters is the human touch, the way you grow it, the way you share it, the way you make it alive." Daniel let out a nervous laugh. "Okay, this is getting too weird. You're saying aliens can't eat fruit unless a human gives it to them?" Cirrus shook her head slowly. "No, we can eat it, but it gives us nothing. To us, food is only fuel, cold, empty. But when humans prepare food, something invisible is added. Flavor, yes, but more than that. Emotion. You may not realize it, but you place a piece of your soul into what you create." Daniel stared at her, trying to process her words. "You're saying my cooking has soul?" "Yes," Cirrus said simply, her glowing eyes never leaving his. "That is why I am here. My master is dying. His body is strong, but his spirit is empty. Machines keep him alive, but he feels nothing. If he tastes food prepared by a human, there is a chance he will remember what was lost. A chance he will live." Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "So, you want me to cook? That's your big request? You traveled light years to knock on some random guy's door because you want me to make dinner?" Cirrus's expression didn't change. "Yes, I need you to prepare a meal for my master." Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. The way she said it, so calm, so serious, made it impossible to laugh at her. He looked at her uniform again, the way it shimmered with some energy he couldn't explain. He looked at her glowing eyes, her too perfect movements. Whatever she wasn't human. That much was clear. "Why me?" Daniel asked quietly. "Out of all the people on Earth, why not go to a famous chef or someone who actually knows what they're doing in the kitchen?" Cirrus's gaze softened. "Because it is not skill that matters. Not taste. Not technique. It is intention. It is heart. A chef who cooks for money may not give what my master needs, but you cook to survive, to comfort yourself, even in small ways. That is the kind of spirit my people lost." Daniel swallowed hard. He thought about his small apartment kitchen, the cheap meals he put together after long days at work. He never thought they meant anything. But to this alien maid, they were something powerful. "I don't know," Daniel said, shaking his head. "This is too much. I don't even know if I believe you." Cirrus took a slow step closer. The air around her shimmered faintly, like heat rising from asphalt. "You don't have to believe me," she said softly. "You only have to try. If you fail, nothing changes. But if you succeed, you may save more than one life." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to refuse, to tell her to leave him alone. But then he remembered the way her voice had cracked when she mentioned her master. She looked calm and strong, but there was something behind her silver eyes. Fear. Desperation. "What happens if I say no?" Daniel asked. Cirrus's face darkened. She looked at the sky again, scanning as though she expected something to appear. "If you refuse, the seal on your house will break. The ones who hunt me will find you, and you will never remember this night, because they will erase it from your mind. You will go back to your life as if nothing happened. But I will fail, and my master will die." Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. The idea that there were more aliens, dangerous ones, watching them from the dark sky was terrifying. He didn't know if she was telling the truth, but her voice carried a weight that felt too real to ignore. He ran a hand through his hair and let out a long sigh. "Fine, suppose I agree. What exactly do you want me to make?" Cirrus's lips curved into the faintest smile. She reached into a small case at her side and pulled out strange ingredients that glowed faintly in the night. A crystal-like root, a jar of liquid light, and something that looked like a fruit but pulsed as if alive. She held them out carefully. "Combine these," she said, "with your earth food. Add your touch. Add your spirit. That is all I ask." Daniel stared at the bizarre items in her hands. They looked alien, dangerous even. But something in her voice, something in her eyes told him she was speaking the truth. He sighed again and shook his head. "This is insane. But okay, I'll try. I'll cook for your master." Cirrus bowed her head, a gesture of deep respect. "Then you have taken the first step. And for that, human, you have my gratitude." Daniel felt a strange mixture of fear and curiosity rising in his chest. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. All he knew was that his simple life was over, and somewhere above in the silent night sky shadows stirred. Daniel's kitchen was small and ordinary. The paint on the cabinets was chipped, the stove clicked twice before the flame came alive, and the fridge hummed louder than it should. Yet to Saris it was like stepping into a sacred temple. She stood near the doorway, her silver uniform glowing faintly in the dim light, her strange eyes scanning every detail as if she were memorizing it. Daniel placed the alien ingredients on the counter. They looked even stranger under his kitchen lamp. The crystal root pulsed with a faint blue glow, sending small sparks through its veins. The jar of liquid light shimmered as though it held a tiny star. And the fruit, if it could be called a fruit, twitched now and then like it was breathing. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Okay, so I just mix these with normal food, right? You're sure this isn't going to, blow up my house? Saris's voice was calm, but her gaze was fixed on the ingredients. They are harmless on their own. But when touched by human hands, they may change. That is what I must see. That is what will decide if you are truly the one we need. Daniel frowned. Wait, you mean this is a test? Yes, Saris said. A test of humanity itself. Your kind does not realize the gift you hold. You create meaning where there is none. Machines, science, even stars cannot explain it. Only humans can do this. I must witness it with my own eyes. Daniel sighed and pulled out a cutting board. Great, no pressure. Just cooking for the fate of the universe. He washed his hands and started with the crystal root. The knife blade rang sharply as it sliced through. To his shock, the root bled a faint blue liquid that hissed like steam. He jumped back, but the root stayed calm, its glow dimming slightly as if surrendering. Saris leaned forward, watching closely, but said nothing. Next, Daniel took the strange fruit. It felt warm in his hands, pulsing like a heartbeat. He hesitated. This thing is alive, isn't it? Saris's voice was soft. It is waiting. It will respond to you. Daniel swallowed and carefully cut it open. Inside it looked like glowing honey, golden threads stretching between the halves. A sweet smell filled the kitchen, stronger than any perfume. For a moment, Daniel felt a strange calm wash over him, like someone had placed a warm blanket on his shoulders. He shook his head and focused. All right, fruit, root, glowing juice. Let's make alien stew, I guess. He grabbed a pan, added oil, and began cooking. The sounds of sizzling filled the air, and for a moment everything felt almost normal. But then the ingredients reacted. The blue root melted into a liquid that crawled across the pan like tiny rivers. The golden fruit threads danced in the heat, weaving patterns as if they were alive. And when he poured a drop of the liquid light, the whole pan lit up, glowing like a small sun. Daniel stepped back, shielding his eyes. What the hell? But Saris whispered almost to herself. Yes, this is it. The human touch is changing them. Daniel stirred nervously, using his wooden spoon. Strangely, the mixture began to calm. The glowing rivers merged, the golden threads curled around them, and the small sun softened into a gentle glow. The smell changed too, from alien sweetness to something warm and familiar, like soup on a cold day, like home. Saris inhaled deeply, and for the first time, her calm face cracked. Her lips trembled. Her glowing eyes shimmered as if they were watering, Daniel noticed. Hey, are you crying? She quickly turned her head, her voice low. I did not expect this. What do you mean? Daniel asked. Saris looked at him again, her silver eyes brighter than before. You're cooking. It carries memory. Even for me. I can feel something I thought was gone forever. This is why I came to you. This is what my people cannot create. Daniel blinked, unsure how to respond. It's just food. No, Saris said firmly, stepping closer. It is more than food. It is proof. Proof that your kind is different. Proof that your spirit is real. Daniel looked down at the glowing pan, the strange mix of alien and human ingredients now resting quietly, almost like it was alive, but satisfied. He couldn't deny it anymore. Something impossible was happening in his very own kitchen. Okay, Daniel said slowly. So what now? Do I serve this to your master? Saris nodded, but her voice carried a shadow of worry. Yes, but understand, this is only the beginning. If he accepts it, he may live. If he rejects it, your life will never be safe again. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine.
What do you mean?
Saris lowered her gaze. There are others. They do not want this experiment to succeed. They believe humanity should stay ignorant, powerless. If they know what you have done here tonight, they will come. And they will not ask for permission. Daniel swallowed hard, staring at the glowing meal he had just created. His hands shook, but not from fear alone. There was something else, excitement. For the first time in years, his ordinary life felt extraordinary. He glanced at Saris, who stood silently, watching him with both awe and sorrow in her silver eyes. "All right," Daniel said, his voice steadier now. "If this is just a test, then let's finish it. Take me to your master." Saris bowed her head slightly. "You are braver than you know, human. But remember, tests are never without risk." Outside, the night grew darker, and far above the clouds, something shifted. A shadow moved between the stars, waiting for its moment. The kitchen light flickered once, then steadied. The strange meal Daniel had created sat on the counter, glowing softly as if it were breathing. He stared at it, still struggling to believe what he had done. Saris, the alien maid, stood beside him, her silver eyes fixed on the food with a mixture of reverence and sorrow. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the gentle hum of the fridge and the faint crackle of the dish as it cooled. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "So this is it? This little glowing soup is supposed to save your master?" Saris turned her gaze to him, her face calm but heavy with emotion. "It is not the food itself. It is what lies within it. A part of you now lives inside this meal. That is what my people have lost. That is what may awaken him." Daniel frowned. "Awaken him? What do you mean by that? You keep talking like he's asleep." Saris's voice lowered, carrying a weight Daniel had not heard before. "My master is alive, but not truly living. His body functions. His mind works, but his spirit is empty. He has not felt joy, sorrow, or even hunger in centuries. Machines keep him moving, but they cannot give him meaning." Daniel's chest tightened. "Machines? You mean your people replaced emotions with technology?" Saris nodded slowly. Her silver eyes dimmed like a fading star. "Long ago, my world was full of life. We laughed, we cried, we sang, but then we reached too far. We built machines to perfect ourselves, to erase pain, to erase weakness. At first, it seemed like victory. Disease was gone. Hunger ended. But soon something else disappeared, our feelings. One by one, we forgot how to care." She paused, her voice trembling now. "We did not even notice at first. We called it progress. But when our children were born without tears, when our songs turned silent, we realized too late. We had traded our souls for cold perfection." Daniel felt a shiver crawl up his arms. He looked at Saris, suddenly seeing her differently. For all her perfect movements and glowing eyes, there was a sadness in her that seemed endless. He whispered, "And that's why you came here. To borrow humanity's soul." Saris looked at him sharply, but there was no anger in her gaze. Only truth. "Yes, humans are flawed, fragile, and short-lived. But you are alive in a way we no longer are. Your kind laughs even in hardship. You love even when it brings pain. You create meaning where there should be none. That is why I came. That is why I chose you." Daniel's throat went dry. He turned back to the dish, the strange glow reflecting in his eyes. "So your master needs this food to feel again?" "Yes," Saris said softly. "If he tastes it even once, it may awaken his spirit. It may remind him of what we lost. And if it works for him, it could save my people." Daniel rubbed his forehead, overwhelmed. "And if it doesn't work?" Saris's face darkened. "Then he will die. And when he dies, others will follow. My people will scatter like ash, and those who remain will never forgive humanity. They will say we reached out to you and were betrayed. They will come to Earth not as guests, but as conquerors." The words struck Daniel like a hammer. He stepped back, shaking his head. Wait, so this isn't just about saving one alien. This is about stopping a war?" Saris lowered her gaze. "Yes, but I did not tell you at first because I feared you would refuse. Humans often run from burdens too heavy to carry. I needed you to see with your own eyes before you knew the full truth." Daniel paced the kitchen, his hands running through his hair. He had thought this was some strange prank, some surreal night he could laugh about later. But now the weight of it pressed down on him. A meal he made in his tiny kitchen might decide the fate of two worlds. He stopped and looked at her. "Why me, though? Out of billions of people, why not go to someone else? Someone smarter, stronger, more important?" Saris stepped closer. Her silver eyes locked onto his, and for the first time, her voice carried warmth. "Because you are ordinary, and that is exactly what makes you extraordinary. The great leaders of your world, the geniuses, the warriors, they are already blinded by pride. They would see this as power, as control. But you see it as a responsibility. That is what makes you different. Daniel felt his chest tighten again. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that he was just a guy with bills to pay and no future worth talking about. But deep down, a part of him, small and fragile, wanted to believe her. He took a deep breath. All right, I'll go with you. I'll give this food to your master, but after that I want answers. I want the truth about everything. No more secrets. Saris bowed her head, a gesture of respect. You have earned that right. I will tell you everything once this is done. But first we must move quickly. Others will know what you have done tonight. They will try to stop us. Daniel glanced at the window. For a moment he thought he saw something flash across the night sky. A shadow moving faster than any airplane. He swallowed hard. Then let's get this over with, he said, before your hunters arrive. Saris lifted the glowing dish with careful hands as though carrying a newborn child. Her silver eyes burned with determination. Then we leave now. Prepare yourself, human. You are about to step into a world your kind was never meant to see. Daniel's heart pounded. He looked around his small, ordinary kitchen one last time. He had always thought of it as the most boring place in the world. But tonight, it had become the center of something far bigger. And as he followed Saris out the door, into the waiting night, he realized there was no going back. The night outside was colder now. Daniel followed Saris through the quiet streets, clutching his jacket tightly. The glowing dish in her hands lit the path with a soft golden light. It was strange. No one else was outside, no windows opened, no dogs barked. It felt as though the entire neighborhood had fallen into silence, as if the world itself knew something unusual was happening. They walked only a few blocks before Saris stopped. Daniel looked around, confused. There's nothing here. Just an empty park. Saris raised her hand. A faint silver shimmer spread across the air like ripples in water. And then, as if a curtain had been pulled back, Daniel saw it. A massive shape hidden above the trees revealed itself. It was not like any plane or helicopter he had ever seen. It was smooth, silver, and silent, hovering without sound or wind. Daniel froze. That's a spaceship. Saris nodded calmly. Yes, and it has waited for this moment. A ramp lowered silently, glowing with the same silver light as her uniform. Saris stepped onto it without hesitation. Daniel hesitated, his legs refusing to move. Every instinct told him to run, but his curiosity burned stronger. With a deep breath, he followed her up into the unknown. Inside, the ship felt alive. The walls pulsed faintly as though they were breathing. The floor was smooth but warm under his shoes. Strange lights floated in the air, shifting in color like living fireflies. Daniel's mouth hung open as he turned in circles. This isn't metal, it's something else. Saris glanced at him. It is grown, not built. Our ships are living creations. But do not fear. It will not harm you. Daniel tried to steady his breathing, but his heart raced. He clutched the railing as the ship lifted silently into the sky. Through the window, he saw the earth below shrinking, the streets and houses becoming tiny dots of light. He felt weightless, not from the ship, but from the thought that his life had completely changed in only one night. Where are we going? He asked quietly. To him, Saris replied. To my master. The ship moved quickly, and soon they entered a larger vessel that floated above the clouds. It was enormous, like a silver city in the sky. Daniel stared, his mind struggling to take it in. The ramp lowered again, and Saris led him through long, glowing halls. Strange figures passed them. Other aliens, tall and graceful like her, their eyes shining silver. They stared at Daniel with quiet curiosity, but said nothing. Daniel felt small and out of place, like a child lost in a palace. Finally, they entered a vast chamber. At the center was a raised platform surrounded by strange machines that hummed softly. On the platform lay a figure, tall, frail, and unmoving. His skin was pale and almost translucent, his eyes closed. Tubes and silver wires wrapped around his body, connecting him to the machines that kept him alive. Daniel's breath caught. That's him? That's your master? Saris stepped forward, bowing her head with deep respect. Yes, he has been like this for many years. Alive, but not truly living. His name is Arkan, last of the old leaders. If he wakes, there is hope for my people. If he does not. Her voice faded. Daniel swallowed hard. The glowing dish in Saris's hand seemed even brighter in the chamber's dim light. It pulsed softly, almost eager. Saris approached the platform and placed the dish near the frail alien. "Master," she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. "I have brought it. A gift from a human, please. Taste it." For a moment, nothing happened. The machines continued their hum, the figure unmoving. Daniel's stomach twisted. Had this all been for nothing? Then slowly, Arkin's eyes opened. They were dull at first, gray and lifeless. But when they fell on the glowing meal, a faint spark flickered inside them. His frail hand lifted with effort, trembling as it reached toward the dish. Daniel stepped forward instinctively. Wait, should he even eat this? What if it's too much? But Saris placed a gentle hand on his arm. Trust, this is what must be. Arkin dipped his fingers into the meal, lifting a small glowing thread to his lips. He tasted it. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. Then his body shuddered violently, the machines around him beeping wildly. Daniel panicked. He's dying. It's killing him. But Saris's eyes widened with hope. No, he is remembering. Arkin's gray eyes brightened, turning silver like Saris's but warmer, alive. His chest rose and fell faster. His frail lips curved into something that seemed impossible. A smile, a deep sound echoed in the chamber. A laugh. Broken, weak, but real. The ancient alien laughed, and tears rolled down his hollow cheeks. I feel, he whispered. His voice cracked with age. I remember joy. I remember life. The machines flickered and dimmed as if no longer needed. Energy surged through the chamber, a pulse that shook the walls and made the entire ship tremble. Daniel stumbled, gripping the railing. What's happening? Saris's voice was filled with awe. Life. It is returning to him. Arkin sat up slowly, his body no longer frail but glowing with renewed strength. He looked at Daniel and spoke clearly, his voice strong now. You, human, you carry the gift we lost. In your ordinary hands lies the spirit of creation, and for that I thank you. Daniel stared, speechless. He couldn't believe it. His cooking, his simple cooking, had done this. But before relief could sink in, the chamber lights flickered red. A deep alarm echoed through the halls. Saris's face darkened. They know. The others. They are coming. Daniel's heart dropped. Others, you mean the hunters? Arkin stood tall now, his presence commanding, his silver eyes burning with life. Yes, and they will not allow this gift to spread. Prepare yourself, human. The true trial begins now. The chamber pulsed with red light. Sirens echoed through the walls, sharp and cold. Daniel's heart pounded as the sound filled his ears. He turned to Saris, but she was already moving quickly, her silver eyes glowing brighter with worry. They are coming, she said, her voice tight. We must act now. Daniel swallowed hard. Who's coming? What do they want? Arkin, now standing tall and alive, looked at him with grave eyes. Those who fear what has just happened. They are guardians of the old way, beings who believe emotions make us weak. If they know a human has restored me, they will try to erase you. To them, your kind is dangerous, dangerous. The word echoed in Daniel's mind. He, an ordinary man with no weapons, no training, no power, dangerous to aliens who ruled the stars. The doors shook as heavy footsteps echoed outside. Daniel's body tensed. We can't fight them. We need to run. But Saris shook her head firmly. Running will not help. They will find you wherever you hide. Even your planet cannot protect you. If you walk away now, they will erase your memory or end your life. The choice is yours, fight with us or return to ignorance. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He imagined himself back in his small kitchen, cooking instant noodles, pretending this night never happened. Safe, simple, ordinary. But deep inside, a spark of defiance burned. He had already seen too much. He had already changed something impossible. Could he really go back? Arkin stepped forward, his voice deep and commanding. You must decide, human. Your world is at a crossroads. Join us and you may help save both our people. Refuse and you may survive. But Earth will face our enemies alone. The pounding on the doors grew louder. Metal groaned. Daniel clenched his fists, his heart racing. He looked at Saris, her silver eyes filled with fear but also hope. He looked at Arkin, now glowing with new life. And he thought of the meal he had made, of the way it had carried his soul into another being. Something stirred inside him, something he had never felt before. Purpose. Daniel took a deep breath. I'll fight. Saris's eyes widened with relief. Then you are braver than most of my kind. Arkin raised his hand and the machines around him responded. A panel opened, revealing strange tools and devices. He pulled out a slender rod that glowed with shifting light. This is not a weapon in your sense, but it will answer your will. Take it. Daniel hesitated before grasping the rod. It was warm, almost alive, and it pulsed faintly in his hand. He didn't understand it, but somehow it felt right. The doors burst open with a crash. Figures stormed in, taller than Saris, armored in silver-black suits. Their eyes glowed blood red, not silver. They moved with deadly precision, their steps in perfect unison. The leader's voice was cold and sharp. The human must be eliminated. The experiment ends now. Daniel's breath caught. He raised the glowing rod instinctively. Not happening. The aliens moved forward, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Daniel's legs shook, but he stood his ground. The rod in his hand pulsed brighter, as if feeding on his fear and courage. A sudden wave of energy burst out, pushing the nearest attacker back. Daniel gasped. I did that? Saris called out from behind him. Yes, the rod responds to your spirit. Use your will, your imagination. That is what makes you human. The attackers regrouped, their weapons glowing brighter. Daniel's mind raced. He thought of fire, of light, of survival. The rod shimmered and transformed into a blade of pure energy. With a wild swing, he deflected the first blast, sending sparks flying across the chamber. Arkin's voice thundered. Good. Do not fear their strength. Use what they cannot, your creativity, your unpredictability. The battle exploded around them. Saris moved like lightning, disarming attackers with swift, graceful strikes. Arkin raised his hands, releasing waves of silver light that bent the air itself. And Daniel, ordinary Daniel, fought with raw instinct, swinging, blocking, dodging, each move driven by pure will. But the enemies were strong. For every one that fell, more pushed forward. Daniel's arms ached, his breath came in ragged gasps. Doubt crept in. He couldn't keep this up. One of the armored aliens lunged, knocking him to the ground. The rod flew from his hand, sliding across the floor. Daniel scrambled back, heart racing. The alien raised its weapon, ready to strike. Saris cried out, Daniel! Time seemed to slow. Daniel's eyes darted to the rod. He thought of his kitchen, of the meal he made, of the warmth it carried. He thought of Saris's hope, of Arkin's awakening. He thought of Earth, his world, his people. No, he whispered. The rod flew back into his hand, glowing brighter than ever. With a desperate cry, Daniel thrust it forward. A surge of energy exploded, throwing the attacker across the chamber. The others stumbled back, their red eyes flickering with uncertainty. Daniel stood, trembling but unbroken. He looked at Saris, who smiled faintly, pride shining in her silver eyes. The leader of the attackers snarled. This is not over. The human has chosen his path, and now all of Earth will suffer for it. With that, the invaders retreated, vanishing into the shadows of the ship. The red alarms faded, leaving only silence. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. I can't believe I just did that. Arkin placed a strong hand on his shoulder. Believe it, human. You are no longer ordinary. You carry a flame that could change the fate of worlds. Daniel looked up at him, sweat dripping down his face. He wasn't sure if he felt proud or terrified. But one thing was certain. There was no turning back. Saris knelt beside him, her voice soft but steady. You chose to fight. That choice makes you more dangerous than any weapon, and now, the real war begins. Daniel's chest tightened, but he forced a shaky smile. Then I guess I better be ready. Above them, the ship trembled. Outside, dozens of red lights blinked in the night sky. The hunters were not gone. They were gathering, and Earth had just become their next battlefield. The chamber lay in silence after the attackers retreated, but Daniel knew it was only a pause. His chest rose and fell in quick breaths, the glowing rod still warm in his trembling hand. Saris stood beside him, her silver eyes fixed on the darkened doorway, while Arkin's tall figure radiated a strength that had been absent for centuries. They will return, Arkin said, his voice steady, but grave. And in greater numbers. They fear what you represent, human. They fear the spark you carry. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. I'm just a guy. I don't represent anything, Saris shook her head. No, you are more than you think. You showed them what we lost, the power of choice, of creativity, of spirit. That is why they fear you. Before Daniel could answer, the ship trembled violently. Lights flashed and a deep rumble shook the chamber floor. Arkin's expression darkened. They've surrounded us. Saris ran to a nearby console, her fingers moving across symbols Daniel couldn't understand. A view of the outside appeared in the air. Dozens of massive alien ships, their red lights glowing like angry eyes, forming a ring around them. The hunters had returned with a fleet. Daniel's stomach dropped. "We can't fight all of them." Saris's voice was sharp. "We cannot win by strength alone. But perhaps by difference." She turned to him, her gaze intense. "Daniel, this is where humanity matters most. They know every strategy, every weapon, every calculation, but they do not know unpredictability. They do not know imagination." Arkan nodded slowly, his silver eyes glowing brighter. "Yes, machines cannot dream. They cannot improvise. That is the human advantage." Daniel's hand shook as he tightened his grip on the rod. "So you're saying I need to outthink an entire alien fleet? That's insane." Saris placed a hand on his shoulder. "Insane, yes. But it is also human." The ship shook again as energy blasts struck its shields. The hunters' voices echoed across the chamber through a comlink, cold and merciless. "Surrender the human. Destroy the experiment. This ends now." Arkan stepped forward, his voice booming. "No, this is only the beginning." The hunters' fleet unleashed a storm of fire. The shields flickered, straining under the barrage. Daniel looked around wildly. "We're going to be blown out of the sky." Saris's eyes locked onto his. "Then use what you have. Not just the rod. Use your mind." Daniel's heart pounded. He looked at the glowing rod, then at the strange living walls of the ship. An idea, reckless and crazy, sparked in his mind. If this ship is alive, then maybe it can hear me. Maybe it can do more than just defend. He pressed the rod against the floor, focusing on the thought that filled his chest. Survival. The ship pulsed, its walls glowing brighter. Daniel closed his eyes, imagining movement, escape, freedom. The entire vessel shuddered and then vanished from its place. Daniel opened his eyes to see stars rushing past. The hunters' fleet fired wildly into empty space, missing their target. The ship had jumped, moved in a way that defied logic. Saris's lips parted in shock. "You made it respond. You moved us." Daniel staggered back, dizzy. I just thought about it and it happened." Arkan's voice carried awe. "That is the difference. Machines cannot dream of impossible moves. But humans can." The hunters, however, were not finished. Their ships reappeared faster this time, chasing like wolves. They closed in, their red lights burning brighter. Daniel's pulse raced. He gripped the rod tighter and thought harder. Zigzags, sudden turns, impossible loops. The ship obeyed, darting like a living creature, slipping through gaps, dodging fire. Each move was wild, unpredictable, impossible to calculate. The hunters faltered. Their perfect coordination broke. They collided with each other, their red lights flickering as confusion spread. Arkan's voice thundered with triumph. "Do you see? This is the power of chaos. This is the human difference." Daniel, gasping for breath, pushed the ship through one last impossible dive. The hunters scattered, their fleet broken apart. For the first time, they retreated, vanishing back into the void. Silence filled the chamber. Daniel collapsed against the wall, exhausted but alive. His chest burned, his arms shook, but a strange fire lit his eyes. Saris knelt beside him, her voice soft but filled with awe. "You did what even my people could not. You turned weakness into strength. You turned fear into victory." Daniel let out a shaky laugh. "I'm not a soldier. I'm not a hero, I just imagined what I'd do if this was a video game." Saris smiled faintly. "And that is why you succeeded." Arkan stepped forward, his tall form casting a long shadow. His silver eyes glowed warmly as he looked at Daniel. "Remember this night, human. You are not ordinary. Your kind holds the gift that even the stars cannot replace. Spirit, imagination, life." Daniel stood slowly, his legs unsteady. "So, what happens now? Do I just go back to Earth like nothing happened?" Saris shook her head. "No, the hunters will return. They will not stop. But now you are part of this. You cannot go back to the life you had." Daniel sighed, staring out the window at the stars. Earth was somewhere below, small and fragile. He thought of his kitchen, his quiet streets, his ordinary life. That life was gone. Arkan's voice was steady. "The war has begun. But with you there is hope. Humanity is no longer hidden. Your difference will shape the future." Daniel gripped the glowing rod tightly. He felt fear, yes, but also something new. A fire in his chest, a strength he never knew he had. He turned to Saris, who watched him with quiet pride. "Then I guess it's time to fight." Not just for your people. For mine too.
Outside the window, more ships appeared, distant but approaching, dozens, hundreds. The sky burned with lights as the next wave arrived. Daniel tightened his grip and whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "Let them come." And for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid.